I really didn't know if I was going to do these episodes or not. It sounds dumb, but Crete means so much to us. I wasn't sure I could actually do it justice. I mean, I go back to early episodes now, or even just episodes that came out 6 months ago, and already I have a list of things in my head that I wish I'd done better. And I figured whenever I did the Crete episodes, I'd still be looking back in a year or two and wish we could have done it, well, better. But yeah, by that logic, you'd never get out of bed in the morning, so we're doing it anyway. But it's still pressure. Crete was really where we first developed the itch to travel. It was 2017, Jen and I had our honeymoon there, and Jen organised the itinerary. She pretty much put everything together, and I was mad impressed. I was like, I should try that. And got to be honest, since 2017, I have been zooming in and out of the Google Earth view of Crete with an almost gaunt, hungry expression on my face. A mixture of stuff I wanted to see again and new things I wanted to get to. There were even particular coffee spots I was dying to revisit, but wasn't even sure they'd still be open for business by the time we could get to them, especially after a year and a half of the plague. And I could insert a blow-by-blow here about how we booked flights back in September 2019, but 2 cancellations later, we didn't actually get to Crete till 22 months after our original booking. But even spread across several episodes, there's loads to cram in, so we're going to move things along. As for where to start, it's actually pretty straightforward. On the western end of the island is the prefecture of Chania, with the town of Chania as its capital. Now, first hint, Chania flights are consistently much cheaper than flying to Heraklion, the capital. And not to get ahead of ourselves, while I love Heraklion, Chania is really something special. So this was summer 2021, and amidst a near unthinkable number of tests, forms, more tests, about as much plague admin as a human could possibly endure, we emerged from the airport. First Freddo cappuccino in almost a year. I can't tell you how good that first Freddo off the plane always tastes, even if Everest wouldn't be my first choice of outlet on Greece. There is a pretty easy bus into town. You really won't need a cab for this one. So we're on the bus, and I am this close to bursting into song, like I'm in the middle of my own personal musical. I am so excited. There's something about being in Greece. All of the things that would be basically the same on paper are somehow different, and yet it all feels amazing just being back. Abandoned or unfinished buildings, all the stores with Windows 95 levels of graphic design, just all the weird details. It feels like coming home. So the bus dropped us at the KTEL station, which refreshingly is not 9 kilometres from the centre of town, as KTEL depots often are. You don't really need to know about our Airbnb in specific. It was small, but fine, case closed. As far as accommodation, just keep yourself under a kilometre from the old town, okay? Trust me on this one. The metropolitan area of Chania is, well, it's about as large as you can be without anyone from anywhere else thinking you're large, if that makes sense. It's home to a little over 100k residents if you include all the outlying boroughs. I can't pretend to be even remotely unbiased. As far as I'm concerned, this is paradise on earth. Let's have a montage. Now, we've seen a fair chunk of Greece. You can catch all the Ionian Island episodes in the same playlist as this, and we've got a bunch more episodes coming. But even after seeing our fair share of beautiful Greek coastal towns, Chania still remains our favourite. Let's go for a quick tour of the waterfront. So this is the main street here. You might want to take a note of that Alpha Bank. Not because it's some great monument or anything, but it's sort of the go-to meeting point for tours. Down a busy main street past the cathedral on your right. Pretty soon the walkway becomes thick with the tables and chairs of restaurants all the way around the harbour. I love the energy of being down here. The harbour is just gorgeous. Multicolour pastels of various buildings, the minimal elegance of the harbour architecture itself. Past the restaurants, you get a clearer look at the lighthouse, which is just perfect. And then you can see the Kusuk Hasan Pasha Mosque, built as part of the Ottoman period of Crete. And, well, look, small note to the architect of this, which is... okay, well, if you're going to build a mosque with a beautiful smooth round dome, maybe don't paint it flesh pink and give it a nipple. It's just for reasons that should be quite obvious. It's just not really on brand for a mosque. Hey, look, don't look at me. Any human being who looks at that will see it. Don't put that on me. There's no getting away from it. It's a building-sized Freudian slip hiding in plain sight on the Chania waterfront. I did look to see if the paint job is a more recent thing, but couldn't find anything on the subject of its original finish. Anyway, there aren't as many traces of Crete's Ottoman heritage, so unequivocally, glad this is here. Just, maybe paint it blue. No, okay, I'll move on. Rounding the corner, there's more restaurants and some boats moored, but you also get a view of some of the Venetian architecture that makes the harbour so special. This is the secret sauce that gives Chania its historical je ne sais quoi. You might have picked up that I'm more than a little bit down the rabbit hole as far as Venetian history goes by now. I'm going to spare you the history class for now, but that's only because I'm storing up all the footage for a massive rampage of episodes on the Venetian Republic in the not too distant future. So that's the harbour. It's just a little bit magical. It depends where you're standing, but if you get just far enough from the buildings, or better yet along the harbour wall, the whole town is framed by the mountains in the distance. If you're lucky and you get here at the beginning of the season in May, they still may keep their snow, and you can catch glimpses of them through the town on the occasions when the buildings part. The restaurants vary. There's quite a few mediocre ones that are fine and not all that special, but look, here's the thing. I don't care. I'm in Chania. I am way the hell too happy to be fussed, and we're on a limited budget. I don't care if this isn't the most gourmet food ever. As far as my endorphin levels, you could serve me burnt toast right now and it would probably still taste like a state banquet. I think that's the thing with Mythos too. Mythos, if you've not come across it, is a Greek-ish beer. I have a theory it's probably just Carling or something similar with a different label on, but even with that knowledge, I can't deny that every time I have one, it tastes like the nectar of the gods. Because, look, same principle. You're on holiday, the sun is shining, you have a cold beer. Maybe don't get Mythos in England if you can get a hold of it. I think that's probably going to break the spell. But when you're drinking it in paradise, even an average beer tastes like the best pint you've ever had. There is also Harma, which is probably the better beverage if you're more discerning than I am. Something that I also love about Crete, free stuff at restaurants. It's not absolutely universal. I'm sure if you're spending less than 10 euros a head, then they may not bother. But in a lot of places, free dessert and free Reiki is pretty common. It's a pretty cheap tactic to get better tips, but good. I mean, gift giving is one of my main love languages, so dishing out free desserts and drinks, even if the retail value to the restaurant isn't that high, that's a brilliant way to get people on side. My attempts to take off the edge from the Reiki by adding the watermelon never worked, even though it did end up looking quite pretty. And then the sunsets, which I was struggling to see as I tried to wipe all the happy tears out of my eyes fast enough. And there we go, day one, done. So yeah, that's quite the glowing review, but I stand by it. I did my usual thing of getting up at 5 a.m. to photograph the town. It was hard to differentiate the people still up from the night before and those who had early coaches to catch for those trips I mentioned. Caught the sunrise over the harbour. Would love to linger on this, but we've got places to be, and after nipping around to catch some footage for the future episodes, we had a coach to catch. We are getting a hire car in a bit, but this particular destination is actually much easier to do as one of the many excursion days available. In fact, when you get a hire car, they make you specifically sign that you won't take your car down this peninsula. It's like the one thing they expressly forbid. Okay, so what is this? Well, at the northwest extremity of Crete, there are these two ridgelines that tried to make the break for being separate islands, but didn't quite get enough GCSEs. And if you circumnavigate this one, the Gramvosa Peninsula, you're in for quite a treat. To underline, while there is a car park there, the road is a brutal 7 kilometres of dirt and stones designed specifically to tear up your undercarriage if you do it in anything less than a Sherman tank. Whereas at pretty much any price point, you can get a coach, then a boat to take you there. And when I say any price point, I don't know the exact business model here, but as the coach left from the Alpha Bank stop, that one we told you about earlier, a lady who was in charge of taking the register came down and collected euros from everyone, and no two groups were paying the same amount. It appears hotels add on whatever they feel they can get away with for commission, so it's hard to say exactly what the flat cost of all this is. We shopped around, and this Viator £26 seemed about right, but you could easily have paid double or even triple that for a seat on the exact same coach from a different agency. It's very confusing. This did not include the cost of the boat, which is about 30 euros on top, so if you're doing the whole thing for about 40 or 50 euros, you're probably doing all right. Much more than that, you're probably being gouged. Anyway, the coach is just to get you to Kissamos port and then onto a boat. This boat, in fact. I was going to say low-angle flag shot, but for a change this is pretty eye-level. But it gives you a good idea of how windy it was. This was a weird fixture of our first few days on Crete. It was very windy for like 4 or 5 days straight. It mainly manifests itself in unusually shaky camera moves, higher waves, and people at the Chania waterfront getting soaked if they didn't watch out. It's in that annoying range where it's impossible to ignore on the day, but on camera it makes us look like we're fussing about nothing. And unless I leave all the audio in to make an absolute racket over the rest of the episode, could you just take our word for it on this one? The boat trip was certainly more up and down than last time. yeah, probably should have mentioned, this was actually our second time taking roughly this trip. Back in 2017, we did essentially this same excursion. I personally have quite the nostalgic streak, so no qualms about being back again. I was gleefully trying to catch the rainbows in the spray against the side of the boat, which took a few tries. And you get some great panoramas of the peninsula as you go. Had to resist the urge to completely max out all my SD cards just taking the same shot over and over again. There's something about these mountains on the ridge dropping into the sea that's so hard to take your eyes off. With the flattened perspective on camera, I guess this doesn't leap out as quite as special. I don't know what to tell you, you've got to see it in person. As you round the corner, the views get even more stupid, crazy, beautiful. The western side of the ridge is replete with spectacular mountain peaks. Maybe this goes away to explaining why I was so keen to get back here. It shouldn't really come as a surprise that Crete and Imeri Grambosa was popular with pirates. They presumably got there and said, hey guys, this place already looks like a pirate-themed place as it is. I think it would be considered rude if we don't set up a base here. How long do you guys reckon it would take to carve a skull fortress into that mountain? There's 2 stops the ships make around here. They flipped the order, so this was the opposite way round last time we did it. Rounding the island, there's another island, Tigani, if you're interested, and it's just close enough to the mainland and the water shallow enough to form a stunning beach between the two. This appears in all sorts of travel promos all the time. It's somewhat irresistible. The violently turquoise water, the views, the sand. They scramble everyone off the ship with a return time, the landing spot, which looks like an amusingly unsuitable place to disgorge around 500 people at once. It's sort of an adventure playground of rocks with dried pools of salt along the way, and anyone in flip-flops, you are one slip away from getting bloodied toes. It's fine. You'll have a job getting a wheelchair over all this, but after a 5 to 10 minute scramble, you'll be on the beach. Even though there's going to be a lot of people at once, it's large enough that you can still kind of get a space pretty much to yourself. And while you've got to do the ouch walk for a few good yards, this is a good swim spot. There's also this natural paddling pool lagoon, which barely gets deeper than 1 foot and is bathtub warm to walk or sit in. Even found small amounts of pink sand that everyone steals from these beaches. Is it really off-putting to have my feet in this? I know I haven't shaved my legs since ever, but whatever, man. I mean, a new pair of Vans always makes me feel really good on holiday, and so there's that one particular shot. It was simultaneously boiling but also very windy, which was a funny mix. So I probably don't have to sell you on this all that hard. If you want it a lot quieter, the large boats aren't in and out all day. As best I can determine, they're out at roughly the same time around the middle of the day. So if you've got cash to burn on a private boat or, a military-grade vehicle to get you down the road, you could have it almost deserted most of the morning and hopefully later in the afternoon/evening. Just bear in mind, I ran a ways up this slope, burning my bare feet on the boiling hot path in the process, but you get the best top-down shots. But if you do make it to the top car park, you've got to make it down and then up this slope again. Just factor that in. Well, clock was ticking, time to get everyone back on the boat. A small journey and we're back out again onto the island that basically everyone is talking about when they say Grambosa. So this is a Venetian fort perched on top. It's pretty wrecked compared to some of the other ones you've seen us visit so far. In fact, there's a lot more to come just on this trip, but I'm not going to go hard on that footage until we finally get to our Venetian episodes. Because half of you just aren't here for that, and half of you won't get out of bed for a video with fewer than 4 journal citations in the first 30 seconds. It's pretty great. I like it. It's a pretty steep walk up. Don't fall down this hole, and we're back on the boat. So yes, this is a place that makes me unreasonably happy. I do recall the journey back dragging a bit from our first time, and yeah, it didn't take much coverage on the way back. At long last, back into Kissamos, coach back, gyros for dinner. We've done this before, but a little revision for you. Gyros is meat, usually, fries, tzatziki, and some onions and tomatoes in a pitta. And it sits pretty reliably at the sort of €2.50. Some restaurants will always find a way to try and creep that up a bit, but getting what amounts to a modest meal for €2 to €3 or thereabouts is hard to say no to. I'm not too proud to have a gyros and then just order a second. You've eaten for about a £5. Sunset over the harbour. If I fall off that edge, I can die happy. Chania at night. Most of the stores are open late, and amongst all the places selling bootleg Greek-adjacent merchandise is this place to which you can only say, "Oi lads, I found the perfect place to describe your missus!" So, Chania in the morning. I took in more of a lap of the Venetian fortifications this time. They'd sort of passed me by in 2017. We were pretty much just looking at the harbour and being like, the Venetians? As in Venice. Isn't that a little bit far away? What are they doing here? That all seems like another life now. Well, once again, saving it. Finally got to Coffee Island after several days of it being inexplicably closed. Explored a bit more of the town.
Oi lads, I found your mum's house!
We got a spot of breakfast at the harbour. The coffee in Greece is invariably of such high quality, it actually feels pointless highlighting the best spots. It's more gestures in the direction of the whole island. There! That's where the good coffee is. Not you. Get out of here. Who invited you? So it was at this point we did sort out our own wheels. I now know how New Zealand feels, as the UK was entirely missing from this world map in the office. So you can do well in Crete on buses alone. It'll thin your choices down somewhat, but we did it in 2017 and it was pretty great. It easily gets you between the main towns. However, we did have some smaller stuff to see, like this Tholos tomb near Malin, which was on our way to the other major tourist spot on the Chania end of the island. There's pretty much three. Gramvosa on the north coast, Samaria Gorge. I'm itching to get back there. We were there in 2017 and it's a great spot. We didn't quite have the space to do it again this time around. I will be there next time we're on Crete. But we needed to leave space for a place we didn't get to last time. On a flat map, getting from here to here seems entirely unremarkable, but despite the volume of traffic this route gets, including coaches and buses, it is a remarkably skinny, rural-looking road to the south. Oh wait, before we get off the main road along the north coast, we ended up having an extremely windy moussaka at this deserted restaurant, which was fine if we could just keep everything on the table. So yeah, threading the needle between gorges, tunnels and villages, after between 90 minutes to 2 hours out of Chania, you get to Elefsinici Beach. Now I know everyone is trying to look like they're having a normal day, but this was some of the worst of the wind. It was genuinely painful getting sandblasted, and don't let the blue skies fool you, it was actually really cold. I know shots like this make it look idyllic, and we did have a swim regardless, but so windy. I mean, really. So this is not the idyllic tropic experience that most people would have at Elefsinici. It's supposed to be famous for its pink sand, which is formed from particular crushed seashells, but sadly there's little in evidence. It takes many years for enough shells to get ground down, and with people just taking it away and even selling it, there's not much left. The beach itself is still stunning. I mean, just don't expect it to be deserted. Thanks to the winds, we didn't want to stay there for hours and hours, so eventually we got in the car and headed back. It's remarkable how long this road, there are so many stalls, all essentially competing with each other for the same dollar, selling much the same things: olive oil and olive oil products like creams and honey. It's mostly just those two. So yeah, just a near constant barrage of them for nearly the hour-long stretch north to south. It's amazing this route can seemingly sustain all of them. The landscape is pretty stunning. It's worth stopping off and getting a proper look at the gorges. It's the mountains that really make the west of Crete special. So after we got back and clawed all the sand out of our hair, there was one restaurant I wanted to revisit from our previous trip. A longer walk than I remembered, actually, around from the historic harbour of Chania to the much more modern, practical harbour of Nia Hora, but for this place, it was worth it. I get bored of explaining how we don't eat pricily enough to really do it for the gram. I'm not about to film a €9 mixed grill from 24 different angles and present it like I'm doing some insightful travel journalism. But for a change, even though Portes isn't exactly expensive, this was well worth getting back to. The food and coffee were great, but the views of the sundown were perfect. There's also this cat darting around trying to eat the cicadas by the look of it. And yes, free Reiki again, thank you kindly. I didn't realise I could grow such a fondness for what is ostensibly grape-flavoured nail varnish remover for us tourists, but call me trash because I can scarcely get enough of it. Walked back along the harbour, felt like being newly married again. Not sure how many more ways I can gush about how happy this place makes me. Instead of my mouth just saying more voice words, I'm going to just go for the supercut. As I'm sure you could tell, I'd happily drag this episode on for another 10 minutes just pointing out all the things around Chania, but I'm trying to keep these episodes vaguely trim. Our other episodes keep creeping up around the 25-minute mark, and apart from taking forever to make, fewer people bother to watch them at all. So we're going to round it out here. We make all the music you've been hearing in the background for these episodes. It's actually what ends up taking the longest, so we're scaling back the amount of music we make for these a little bit, but you can still catch the EP on Bandcamp.com, and if you want to support the channel, that's the place to do it. Otherwise, we'll be back with the next Crete episodes very soon, so catch you for that.